Success leaves clues. Smart people seek out those clues, they find them, they learn from them, and they implement them in their own lives. The video you're about to watch is a recap of some of the moments from our guests right here on Visionary Voices. They share their stories with us, and they tell us the mistakes they made and the lessons that they learned along the way, so that you don't have to make those same mistakes. You can learn from them and implement them in your own life. Be the smart one and make that work for you. Enjoy.
One of the things I always tell business owners is you are the bottleneck in your company. So the level at which you are allowing yourself to think, to play, will determine where your business can play at as well. So when I started this journey back in December 2016, I had actually gone into business mid-2016, and by December, I pretty much sucked. Really sucked at business. Mm-hmm. I was extremely service oriented. I love people. I love serving, but I just was not good at business. And because I didn't really think it was important. Like, I didn't care to be good at business because I thought I'm a good person. I do good work, and people that I do work with love what I do. Who cares about the marketing, invoicing, all the other things that go with business? Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until December 2016 when I found out that my husband had been eating chocolates for dinner so that I could eat the rest of our food, because I was nursing our 6-month-old baby girl at that point. That was kind of like my wake-up call, even for the business.
I remember I was working I don't think I had a life. My first year in business, I was working weekends, I was working nights. I was so focused on getting my client results that I gave up a lot of my life to help my clients. And I was young. I started my business, the business I have now in my 20s. And no one teaches you these things. No one tells you, oh, you should take Saturday and Sunday off just so you can recuperate. And a lot of entrepreneurs are like, I'm going to work 7 days a week just to make more money. Yeah, that can happen. But then are you going to last 5 years in your business? Mm-hmm. I see a lot of burnout with CPAs during the tax season where they're working 7 days a week. And I know, because I was there, a lot of my family members, they deal with, the deadlines, the banking regulations. I've seen them burn out as well. It's not fun. And I would say that's a big mistake I see, is not knowing when to stop and when to start, right? Because I think a lot of people think how much time you put in equals how much money you get out. Mm-hmm. But it's all about balance.
I started to learn strategy around business. I got a little bit better with things. And I remember February 2017, I had my first $7,000 month, as a business. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is incredible. Like, I will never be poor again. This is amazing. Yeah. But the problem was, after having the $7,000 in a month, I would do the same amount of work, same amount of effort, same amount of everything. And for some reason, $0 would come in. 0, 500, 0. So until the money finished and the business was back in struggle, then we had another $5,000 month. Okay. And I'm doing the same amount of work, and it was just this huge feast and famine roller coaster. And by October 2017, we were back at the bottom. I had to email friends and family asking them for money to help us pay our rent, pay our bills that month. And I just remember being so pissed off. Like, I was pissed off. I was
at
just
who?
Mad. At the whole situation.
Okay.
How can I have, in the same year, I earned $7,000 in a month in my business, and here I am not earning so much that I need to now ask for help again, as if I'm in ministry, as if I'm a missionary when I'm in business. Yeah. And it just, so I get mad at the situation, and God just happened to have it where in that season, in that month, I was in a leadership development program. And in this program, they had me do a personality assessment. And this personality assessment the guy, he had done personality assessments for like CEOs and executives for Fortune 500 companies. And then he said a phrase that stopped me in my tracks. He said, Toyin, I don't think you understand, with your balance of UI, EI, whatever, you have the ability, the potential to have global impact, but you likely never will because of two things. Well, number one, you're highly service oriented. And I was like, oh, absolutely I am. And he goes, there's nothing wrong with being service oriented. I'm like, yeah, better not be, And he goes, the problem is you're also demotivated by money. Ooh. Now, I'd never heard anyone use that phrase in my life. And so I'm Christian, I believe in God. And in this moment, he tells me you're demotivated by money. And I felt God speak to me, like I'm not even listening to this guy anymore. Yeah. And God says to me, Toyin, you're not just demotivated by money, you're afraid of money. And God started in that moment to show me how every time I would start to have success in the business, I'd start to build some momentum, I would all of a sudden feel God say, shut it down. So any successful thing in the business, I would start shutting it down. And I thought it was God keeping me safe from getting too big. Whereas in that moment, I realized it was my fear speaking and causing me to not get where God was trying to send me. And so God literally tells me in that moment that, Toyin, you've been so afraid of making money higher than me in your values, because God is my number one value. He said, you're so afraid of putting money above me that you've put money above me. Because in this moment, I've now called you to business. And if you're going to run a business, you got to be able to manage money. You got to be willing to make money.
I think more people should know how hard entrepreneurship can be. Not in the way that, it doesn't let you be ambitious and do what you want to do, but kind of warning signals. I have gone through a lot, and I'm really proud to be where I am, but I know there's a lot of work ahead of me. And in terms of my struggles, I think one of the biggest things was balancing my relationships with family, with friends, with my business. I remember I would leave like dinner parties at 7 p.m. I remember I left a dinner party at like 8 p.m. because I had a client meeting at like 9 p.m. Think about it, right? And all my friends were like, where are you going? It was like a Friday night too. When I was like, they're like, where are you going? And I'm like, don't worry, I'll be back after an hour.
No, you won't.
No, I did come back to that dinner party. And one of my friends pulled me aside and they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm making money. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. But looking back at that, I was like, that's not something to be proud of, right? It just meant I didn't have the boundaries or the level of separation between my business and I. And I would say it took like a solid year before I really implemented, okay, I can't be working past 9, or I can't be taking meetings past like 6 or 5 p.m. Or taking Friday meetings just doesn't work for my life anymore. And I think those are some struggles that a lot of entrepreneurs will face. Actually, that's kind of how I see newer entrepreneurs and older entrepreneurs. If you're taking meetings on like Saturday, Sunday, I'm like, how experienced are you if you don't have like that, like balance in your life? That was one of the biggest struggles. And I definitely paid for that a lot in my personal life.
When you're raising kids, if you think about, every interaction, anytime you're interacting with the external world, you can just do it passively where, okay, you get on that train, or you can talk with your kid as, I was lucky to have growing up where my parents would go through, okay, how does this train work? Where do you think it's going? And you just develop kind of an innate curiosity about the world. And I think that's something where you carry that through to your career and you start to see, analogies in terms of how things work. You start to develop a level of interest that's kind of self-sustaining, where the most curious people I know have always had the most successful careers because, one, it's energizing. They're just able to self-energize their interactions because they want to go to that meeting and learn about that thing. They want to ask the customer, okay, why is this a problem? Why aren't you doing that? And it's always easier to do that stuff when you are genuinely interested about the problem. and there's a drive there, a motivation that's different than, okay, I'm just asking this question because my boss wanted me to ask this question, or I know I need to ask this question. That kind of innate curiosity, if you can instill that in your kids, which I was lucky to have growing up, I think that's something where you start to see these problems and you start to see these sources of friction, and you decide, okay, I don't know why this person isn't doing this. Let me figure out what is stopping them. Is it understanding? Is it a source of friction? Why does this not exist in this industry? And I think a lot of that curiosity and kind of seeing those analogs across problems and industries is a lot of what brought me to this.
I think everyone should use social media, but not in the ways that you think. Not in the fact that you should be trying to post content every day or be an influencer. And when it comes to women of color especially, I think a lot of us are sold this dream of like post every day and you can get brand deals and influencerships and sponsorships and flights out of the country and all of that. And it can happen. It can happen, but it's a lot of work and not everyone has the time to be posting every day like that. There are multiple ways to make money through social media, not with paid ads, but a lot of like creating connection, right? I know like even in the green room, we were talking about how we had talked before even getting on this podcast. We were having conversation.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know their audience. I can say like out of all my followers, I have probably talked to maybe like 60% of them. Like I've had it.
Great.
Actual conversation, but if you talk to someone that has 20,000 followers, do they know all of them? Do they know them? Do they know their story? And I think that's the biggest differentiation with like the facade you see on social media and like the actual amount of conversations you've had with real people, with a human on the other side of your social media page.
For more insightful conversations with entrepreneurs, check out this video right here. I think you'll love it. Continue to enjoy, and I'll see you there.